Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here. And so there's this weird thing where I have guests on and we meet on Twitter or Instagram. And as Kriss did no research, I know enough about him to know what's going on, but I don't really know him. And so I enjoy getting to know somebody the same as my guests do and let it kind of unfold where it is. So Kriss, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, man. So, I know you're in real estate. I know you do a bunch of different stuff, car wash guy, all that kind of stuff. But kind of give me a little backstory on how we got here, kind of your career, where you started out.
Yeah. So I have a degree in mining engineering of all things. You can actually see my mining hard hat up here behind me. I was in the mining business for a while and decided I didn't want to be a part of corporate America. And so in 2003, I kind of had a crisis. I broke up with my girlfriend, quit my job, threw everything in the back of a pickup truck and moved back to Denver, close to where I'd gone to college. And my only friend who had room for me was in a similar situation. He was in tech in Silicon Valley and hated that, sold everything, and he bought a little lube shop right outside of Denver. And that was this beginning of his entrepreneurial journey. And he basically showed me that you can do this, right? Like, he wasn't any smarter than I was. And in fact, he was a lot lazier than I was. And so I went down the same path. I found a little excavation company for sale on Biz Buy Sell, which was very young back then. And I bought it. It was for sale for I think it was about $200,000. I think I got the owner down to about 180. I put in 50 and got a SBA loan for the rest, and got my ass kicked for the first year and a half. I had no idea. I had no entrepreneurial leanings whatsoever growing up. My parents were both, my mom worked for the federal government for almost 40 years. My dad sold advertising at newspapers and radio stations. There was zero impetus to start a business in that household. And so I just, I kind of did it out of necessity. I realized I was unemployable. I hated people telling me what to do. I was arrogant / naive enough to think that I could do it better. And so I couldn't stand the thought of going through the interview process and going back into corporate life. So just rolled the dice and bought this business and got it. I had no idea what a P&L was, and double entry accounting was a complete mystery to me. So I just got a complete degree from the School of Hard Knocks, I guess you could say.
And how did that business turn out, or do you still own it?
No, I sold it. So it was basically pipeline excavation for mostly small homes, not small homes, but smaller projects, basically water and sewer lines. And so I grew it it was doing about $180,000 a year, 160, something like that. I grew it to about 2.7 million. We went from 3 guys to 26 guys. And I was taking home probably about 300 to 400K a year, but it was more stress than I'd ever had in my life. I just grew this big flat organization. When the 26 guys, there were a crew boss over each crew. There was about 4 or 5 guys in each crew, but there was nothing in between them and me. Mm-hmm. So I was literally using 5,000 minutes a month on my phone back when you had to count your minutes. And I was putting 50,000 miles a month on my truck, or a year on my truck. So I was just driving around and talking on the phone, and it was just extremely stressful business. Excavation is extremely stressful anyway, because you get guys in these trenches. They're very dangerous. If you're digging in areas, you could hit gas lines and fiber optic lines, and there's just this huge risk. So the risk reward profile was way out of whack, and I was just stressful. I met the woman who's now my wife, and she really showed me how miserable I was. And
Hold on. That's the greatest. Like, she really, I have a similar situation in a different business, but she really showed me how miserable my life was. Like, I want to highlight that again, because, you said earlier, I really didn't know what I was doing, didn't have an entrepreneurial background. Now you're in this thing, and, you ever seen the movie Catch Me If You Can?
Yeah.
Okay. When he talks about the two mouse in the bucket, that
Yes.
little analogy, that's like entrepreneurship when you first start out in business.
Yes.
Like, you're either going to drown in the bucket, or you're going to claw your way out. There's really no
Right.
other. Yeah.
Right. That was exactly what I had to do. I had all this debt, and then I had all these guys depending on me. Like, we kept hiring, and I realized very quickly that they were dependent on me for their livelihood. Like, if there was times when I'd say, well, we don't need this guy I can't afford to pay him. And I would realize that he would come back the following week and say, boy, I sure hope you have work for me. We didn't have much to eat last week. It didn't really hit home that people wouldn't be able to eat without my employment. So that was baptism by fire, and like making payroll, right? Making sure you have enough cash to pay your people. It was just a complete shock to me. So sold that business in 2007, and just literally another sort of midlife or early life crisis. We moved off the grid. Literally, we moved to the mountains of Colorado in a solar and wind powered home. I had a nice little nest egg from the sale of that business, and I just wanted to be as far away from any kind of civilization as possible. I thought I could make a living just building kind of one house. When I had the excavation company, I was working for all these guys who were building 1 or 2 houses a year on spec. It's kind of a scrape off, crappy old house in a nice neighborhood and put up a McMansion. And I thought maybe I could do that in the mountains of Colorado in a ski town called Steamboat. And that was 2007. And you probably heard that was a terrible time to start building houses. And so got my ass kicked there, bought a big lot that I was going to put a really fancy duplex on. And the banks told me, no chance that's happening, dude. So had a bunch of money locked up in the lot, and I didn't know what to do with myself. Once again, lost, knew I was unemployable. And so I read the 4-Hour Work Week, which actually is sitting on my desk right now. And that was a revelation for me, because I had always had physical. I was in construction, I was in mining, I was doing all this physical stuff. And this was purely online based. I wasn't really good at computers. I didn't grow up with computers that much. Even in college, they were kind of hard to come by. It was back when I went to college, you still had to like sign up for the computers. You had to sign up for the computer lab. Nobody had computers in their houses really still. So it shows you how old I am. And but this was just a revelation. You could run a business from anywhere, and I was literally in the middle of nowhere. So that's what I did. I bought a little website from a guy who developed SEO based websites, and it happened to be about solar, which I was learning about quickly because I was living in a solar powered home. And that kicked off sort of phase 2 of having online businesses and learning how to leverage international employees. My first employee there was a guy in Pakistan who still works for me, who fixed all the websites and stuff. So that was phase 2. That was the beginning of phase 2.
I would say what's currently happening right now since January, since I took on the CEO role. I've been on my own since I was 17. I worked in hospitality, high-end hotels most of my life, sold wine, work jobs, 60, 80, 100 hours a week for years on end, no days off.
Yeah.
My identity was wrapped up in how hard I would work. And
Yeah.
what I realize now, like we just negotiated the biggest deal of the company's history by 100x, and then we lost the deal, and then I got the deal back, and I realized that they're paying me now for my people skills, but they're also paying me for problem solving, but they're also paying me for decisions, rapid decisions in the moment.
Right.
It's really hard to feel great about a full day when you really only work like an hour, but that 1 hour just kept the company in business for another year and a half. Like, so, but like my whole life, you know, leading up to 38 years old, I'm 40 now, was, you know, you go out and you put in and even my parents, you can ask them, you go in and you put in a hard week of work. And that's how, like, I predicated on my worth. And so this is such a weird, and like, we bought a company the other day and it took me like 2 hours, and it's like, but that like might make us $1 million. And I'm like, but that's work like that, you know, so it's like this reassociation with my identity. And I'm sure when you went from the manual to the website, that was a big jump too.
Yeah. I always laughed at what I called them kind of computer jockeys, right? These guys who just sit in front of a computer. That's not work. Come on. Like, we're out here digging ditches. We're out here mining rock. We're blowing things up and stuff. This is work. And then I realized that the stress, the risk, and all the things that come with that work is really overwhelming at times, and not necessary. If you can set aside your ego, like you can have a very nice business that's very low stress and make a lot of money, and there's no shame in it whatsoever. So,
well, I think what happened to you happened to me. I spent 7 years running hotels and teaching people Airbnb, and I've done it all over the country and all out of the country, and you name it, I've done it, right, in the Airbnb space. And I realized that in my 20s and in my early 30s, I wanted all the sex appeal, the fun thing, the thing that everybody saw, the sizzle. Now I want everything that's boring as shit, that's never going to go away. It's all a wealth game now, where we're uplifting communities and other people. This is an entirely different game, and it takes a different energy. It takes a calming, I need to spend more time in nature so my mind's right. Like it's an entirely different game we're playing when you're lifting up, you know, employees, you know, and being available for them instead of like my own vanity. Yeah,
because my role now really is what I call a visionary firefighter, is sort of architecting the plan, setting the agenda, the overall strategy and stuff. And then diving in when the big problems hit, like you were just talking about, when the big existential crises hit, or you've got this massive sales process, big customer, a big JV partner, whatever it is. That is the best work and the highest use of your time you have. If you are in the weeds figuring out how this little thing's going to get fixed, you're never going to grow the business, and your people will suffer. You think that you're saving your employees from this task, but you're not. You're costing the business its own growth. You're in the way, and the sooner you get out of the way, the better.
I purposely, and not like intentionally like disappear, but I purposely don't go into the office sometimes because I don't want them to, like, we're building a massive company in multiple locations. Yeah. I can't be the answer all the time.
No.
And so it's like, you need to like put on some floaties. You need to use Google, and you need to figure out some stuff, you know?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's hard to train people to do that, especially if you've been hands-on in the past and you've been the answer before. One of the best things I ever did with that construction company was I went to Costa Rica for 2 weeks, and I thought I was going to be able to be in contact with my phone, and nothing worked. And the first 3 days I'm stressed out. And I'm just cringing when I come back, like, what I'm going to come back to? I came back, everything was fine.
Yeah.
Everything's
Well,
fine. It had more autonomy. They were able to make more decisions on their own. That's one of the best things young entrepreneurs can do, is just disappear.
you know what my number one advice? I just gave it to my client today who invests in Airbnbs. I said, you want to know my number one advice for anybody investing in short-term rentals?
Yeah.
Do it in the states you don't live in.
Yeah.
And they go, well, that doesn't make any sense. I go, well, you're going to learn to be a good investor real quick.
Yeah.
And you're going to learn to be resourceful real quick.
Yeah. Delegate.
Instead of running over there every 15 minutes when your house is 30 minutes away. And now you just become a crutch in the system of your investing.
Right. And then you focus on more deals, higher leverage, higher growth, all that thing. If that's your goal, is growth, then you've got to have relentless focus on high leverage tasks. I'm constantly telling young entrepreneur friends this, to get out of the weeds. It's the classes working on the business versus working in the business. Reality is you have to do both in the beginning. You're going to work in the business, whether you like it or not. But the sooner you can delegate that, especially with all the offshore stuff you can do these days, all the leverage you have with, you should not be doing bookkeeping right out of the gate. Get bookkeeping, customer service, stop answering the phone, get all that off your
best
plate
money ever
right
spent.
out of the gate.
Best money ever. We fired the bookkeeper that we brought on, and there was like some red flags that I just didn't feel great about. And instead of letting it drag on for a year, I just said, hey, this isn't working for me. And we paid 10x more, and they're off of Twitter. And it was the best decision we ever made in our life.
Right.
Like, we got the Cadillac of bookkeepers that's going to be able to handle the 10, the 15, the 20 million growth, when before we had somebody that could have got it done, but it wouldn't have gone right.
Right. That's awesome. And so tell me about your business, Austin. I know you're HVAC.
So I spent 20 years in hospitality, working at all the high-end restaurants. I sold wine for 20 years. That was my game. Like, I was the top of what I did. And I was just so safe. Nobody bothered me. Nobody told me. I had a terrible attitude. I was a drunk. For 20 years, I was a drunk, and nobody questioned me. And I met some mentors who were very successful, and they said, hey, you're not going anywhere. And there was many years of blowing up my life multiple times, getting divorced. But I was doing real estate on the side, kind of build up my Airbnb business all across the street. And I was getting 120 to 85 messages a day on Airbnb, and just kind of living my own personal hell. And pulled the ripcord and lost 30 grand and just walked away from everything, bad partnership, the whole nine. Went into private equity, worked there for a while, lending money. And when I was lending money, we were getting our money from BlackRock we were a company out of Austin. And I was like, oh, okay, well, the bank is where I need to be. I need to be the bank. This is ridiculous. And so we were diving more into hotels, and I've done hotels. And last August, we had 28 million of real estate under contract, 2 hotels, a 20 unit, a 300 unit, and a wedding venue. This was Florida, Smokies, Texas. And in the span of 10 days, not by my choice, every project failed in due diligence, insurance, sewage, just a bunch of different reasons, shitty partners, the whole night. And I said, look, this is some horseshit. I'm so sick of lenders. I'm so sick of real estate. I'm done. And what happened is, a guy that had listened to my podcast for 2 years was in big private equity, him and his partner. And we had been bullshitting. And last March, I finally got on the horn with him. And at the end of our call, a 2-hour call, he says this one line. He goes, man, I would give up my right arm to buy cash flowing businesses. And I go, well, the call just changed. And so me and my partners had already been consulting for businesses, and we knew we wanted to do it. So I put together a group of 6 people, our own private equity firm, and we started looking, and I got a business in contract like the next week. And that deal fell through. But when that deal fell through, the same broker had this business that we bought, and it's HVAC, plumbing, electric. And we had a different plan. We were going to go people first, kind of the real estate brokerage, but we decided against it now after going through the due diligence on that, because people are unexpected. And I'd much rather deal with a boiler and a furnace and an AC, because I can make sense of that and change the people out, And so, so the goal is to buy trades businesses and then build affordable housing and storage facilities with the cash from the cash flowing business. So no longer, so the issue being in real estate in my career was we had to raise the money to then go get the lender on board or syndicate a deal and get it done. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm done with that. Okay. So now we're going to go buy the businesses that generate the cash to go then invest in our own real estate. So we're
Nice.
going to be the lenders. So we switched
Right.
the paradigm because I'm just tired of answering to people because I am the worst employee you've ever met in your life because I just don't give a shit. And our business plan is 50 years long because the actual goal, right? I
Mhm.
dropped out of college 3 times. The actual goal for me is twofold. One, I want to create my own trade school for trades,
Nice.
for plumbing and but focus on life too and mindset because I'm a mindset coach. But then we also I want to start a fund when I get 50 where we invest in middle school and high school kids' businesses. And we have an incubator for them to come up with business ideas. So like an entrepreneurship school kind of. So that's like the long-term plan that I plan. But that's why the businesses, I mean, it's a lot of work, but there's like big goals behind it. And that's why we feel comfortable. And I have my own theories about, small businesses, and we'd like to be in a lot of different ones. This last 6 months has reshaped our business plan multiple times over by just meeting people on Twitter and we've got some ideas on what we want to do. But ultimately, my biggest concern is, you're a new married couple. Like, where are you affording a house?
Yeah.
Like the Austin median house price in Round Rock, Texas has jumped from $338 a year to $575.
Yeah.
And you're 45 minutes outside the city. Like, what are we doing here? And so that's like a big concern for the group. And we've been exploring different ways. And the company that we just signed the big project with, as we're doing all the plumbing HVAC, is doing the largest modular construction of an apartment complex in North America.
Nice.
So I'm excited to learn from them. And we did their factory and stuff like that. So we've got a lot of different things we're looking at.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're building a flywheel. That's exactly what I've been trying to do.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's our initial goal was to go in real estate agency because it was the window dressing for the community.
Yeah.
But as we dug deeper, it's just unpredictable to see where the agent market goes and the capital to invest in people that you don't know are going to hang around that technically they're 1099. And so this feels better to me. I guess the thing that I didn't notice, and I'm in a smaller community, but the thing I didn't know was how intricate the small business is to the community. I mean, I went from 18 staff to 49 in 120 days. I have half families, like literally brother, cousin, uncle, and so you're like, oh, just like what you stated, like, oh, this ain't a joke now. We got to go hunt so these people can continue to pay their bills. And so it keeps your foot to the pedal,
Yeah. You're literally feeding these families.
Because I woke up in the first 30 days sweating every morning.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, payroll, and the thing is, it's like, I know myself, I'm highly emotional. I'm really good at what I do. Okay. But I'm learning to be calm and more, mature as I get older and older. But like, I've only been sober for 4.5 years. So some of these emotions are still new to me, right? Full emotions. Yeah. The best thing I ever did, and I hunted him and stole him from my COO. I mean, there's really nothing more to say. He ran a company, 3 states, 35 plumbers. He was the president. He got let go. It's a long story. They were dumb. It doesn't matter. I got lucky. He is my rock, and he knows that he only gets really bad news to me unless I really need to hear it, because he knows I like to ride high because I'm kind of like the face and bring it in. So he like kind of shields me from some of that, the stress, and it's made my life a lot easier. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having a partner. So I have 2 partners now, one on the online businesses and one on the car washes, and it's a superpower. It's absolutely superpower. Because
when you find the right one.
When you find the right one, you got to find the right one. You got to find one that you could trust, to raise your kids. That's what I tell people. Like, this needs to be a pseudo sibling for most people. But once you find them, it's just rocket fuel for your
I was reading one of your posts before we got on, and I loved it because, you know, you went the quintessential route, which was storage facilities, which everybody tells you to do.
Yeah.
And I read your whole thing and I loved it.
Yeah.
And then you found car washes, and you know, you're literally, your handle is car wash guy. You know, talk us through that, like kind of like, you know, because like even me, like I want to do storage unit and we will, but we're gonna build them. It's a totally different thing. But you know, I do feel like the area that we're in is overran by them too. Like it's just, you know, America gets on these things and they just suffocate the crap out of it. You know? But like car wash is always going to be there.
Yeah. So, you know, for the last 4 or 5 years, I've had a really nice income from the online businesses. We have about 4 or 5 online businesses that spit off cash, and they take about 20 to 30 hours a week for me. And I just like to work. Like a lot of people would say, well, why don't you surf? And why don't you mountain bike every day and all this stuff? And I'm like, I mountain bike 2 or 3 times a week. That's enough. I go to the gym every day. I have plenty of free time. I love being productive. I love building stuff. So I was looking for a side gig for this cash, and I tried crypto. I tried all this stuff that, you know, I still don't understand all this crypto stuff. And, you know, I'd probably get like 40 wallets out there with probably 50 grand on it. I don't even know how to get it out. And, but I, as I was getting more involved with Twitter, the real estate thing kept coming back to me. And I had rentals before, and it was a pain in the ass. I had a duplex and a triplex. I lived in one unit, did the house hacking, they call it now. They didn't call it back then. It was a nightmare. You know, tenants were awful, and I was managing it all myself. And I was like, fuck real estate. But I was following Sweaty Startup and all these guys, Moses and everybody, and thinking like, well, maybe real estate's okay. So kicked the tires on storage. And then I moved to this new city, made an old acquaintance into a really good new friend. Our families are as tight as can be, like everybody's best friends. Our wives are best friends. Our kids are best friends. And he started talking about storage. And I thought, well, let's do something. So we sent out a bunch of letters. Let's do this. Didn't get a single response. I think we sent out 75 letters. The one response I got was, I will never sell my storage facility. And so we're like, oh, we're back at square one. We did find one facility that was for sale that was so outrageously expensive, the math would never have worked. You'd have to literally build like an office tower on it or something to make money on it. And I had heard about this. I had looked into this car wash, because when I move to a new town, I get on all the feeds. I want to know what businesses are for sale. I may not buy any of them, but I want to know what's trading, right? I want to know what's going on. So I get in touch with the local brokers, and they start sending me stuff. And this guy had sent me a car wash. Almost a year later, I asked, hey, what's up with the car wash? And he said, still for sale, hasn't traded. And so me and my partner started looking at it, and it was a nice little cash cow. It was doing about 150K a year, and they were dropping about 65 of that to the bottom line. And they wanted 650 for it. And so got in touch with the bank. They loved the deal because it's real estate based. And we bought it. And this place was not listed on Google Maps. It did not exist on the internet whatsoever. You would never have been able to find this place. Even if you were on your phone and you were 2 blocks from it, you would never have found this place. Instantly put it on Google Maps, got it a bunch of 5-star ratings, raised the prices. We basically followed the self-storage playbook, right? You move in, you improve operations, you streamline everything, you raise prices, you improve the marketing, and you improve the bottom line. So that car wash is going to do almost 240K this year. Mm-hmm. And it'll cash flow. Well, the EBITDA on it will be almost 120, 130. So we doubled the value of this place in a very short amount of time. And we thought, this is great. You know, while we're ramping this car wash up, it only took us 4 or 5 hours a week because the staff was already in place. We were looking at self-storage still. We were looking at industrial. We were looking at all these other properties, and another car wash pops up. This is all last year, by the way. We bought the first one in April of 2022. Another one popped up, And it was the same building that it had built by the same manufacturer. It was a franchise type system. We're like, we know how to do this. Negotiated with the owners. We bought that one too. And now we're hoping to buy at least 2 more this year and possibly even 3 more after that. So what happened was we were generating all this cash flow. We used a bunch of cash from the first one to buy the second one. So last year, I put in about $210,000. And December 28th rolls around. I remember the date very distinctly. And the end of December, if you're like me, Austin, you're thinking about taxes. What are the taxes going to look like? You need to think about, are we going to do donations? Am I going to get a refund? Usually for the last 6 years, I've had this huge bill. Mm-hmm. And so I start preparing for that in late December. And so I emailed my accountant on December 28th. I said, what are we looking at this year? And she asked a few questions about the car washes, and she says, I think you're going to get a refund. And I said, refund for what? She said, your quarterly payments. I forget that we make quarterly payments that just come right out of the businesses. I had paid about 150 out of them. She said, you're going to get all that back. And my business partner, who's 50-50 on those business, he's got a bill of about $250K. So I would have had the same bill. So, and I'm just, doing the blah, 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 what's that now? And immediately called her, and she said, yeah, the bonus depreciation on this car wash is out of this world. I knew about bonus depreciation from being on real estate Twitter, but I didn't know it turned out to be $700,000 with the bonus depreciation on those 2 washes, 2 little rinky-dink car washes. So we just fell ass backwards into this. I can't take a lot of credit for this. This was pure. It was luck meets opportunity, right? Which is how most people make their money. And so my tax bill was nuked, and in January, I decided, okay, this is the flywheel. Online businesses, generating cash, buying the car washes, they generate cash, we buy more car washes, more car washes, more car washes. So
I have a mentor I met on Twitter who works for a big PE firm who buys like 30 to 40 businesses a year. Mm-hmm. He's a hired gun. He knows what he's doing. He's going to get out in 3 years. It doesn't matter. But he said this thing when I first met him that you're experiencing. He says, when you buy one business, it affords you the opportunity to get referred a second one. And when you buy 2 businesses, you buy 5 businesses. When you buy 10 businesses, you buy 100 businesses. And it's what I'm realizing is that get in the market. We just picked up a company that went out of business. We got their email, their entire customer list for 10 years, every tool they had.
Yeah.
I refuse to tell people what I paid because it's insane.
Yeah. It's probably insanely low. Yeah.
Yeah. Like five numbers. 4 numbers.
Yeah.
And I realized when I first went into this, and I'm sure you as well too, like looking at the storage unit, like I was so nervous. There's not enough businesses out there to buy. Oh my God, I'm never going to get one.
Right.
And then once you get it, 1 or 2, it's the weirdest thing. It's not like it's like an abundance switch, or like more importantly, like your boundaries of what's acceptable and what you will accept. Like I'm more comfortable to just wait people out, because you realize when you truly get inside a business what it's actually worth.
Yeah.
Instead of just hoping and praying that you find a good deal.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you start getting all these deals thrown your way, and you realize, well, the first one was the hardest. The second one, much easier. 3rd, 4th, and 5th are actually improve the operations of all of them, right? Mm-hmm. Because now you've got this shared labor pool, you got these shared services, and especially if you can create kind of a local, not a monopoly so much, but just a local brand, is that what we're doing. And then
you don't have to tell me exact numbers, but like you got into the online business. Like this concept that you're laying out just makes so much sense to me. Of you have this vehicle that takes this amount of work, this makes cash, and then you take that cash and then you put it in more. Look, what we do is like the long-term goal is to have the cash hit 3 different buckets before we ever touch it. And this is what I don't think enough people get into. They either play the stock market or they do that. Like you really need to have 2 vehicles, kind of compounding your money, and then you
Yes.
look up 5-10 years from now, and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, the goal, I think we can add at least 2 car washes a year for the next 6 years. So if we can get up to 13, 14 car washes, everything changes, because then now you're attractive to the private equity guys. Now you're attractive to the regional, the national players. And what I'm doing with the Twitter thing is I'm building this pool of investors, buyers, people who are interested in these car washes. So now we have a guy who's doing what we're doing, but he's doing it in North Carolina. His goal is to have 10 car washes in the next 4 years. So if we just want to roll this up ourselves, we want to turn this into a platform. Maybe we franchise, but maybe we just go over and we say, hey, guy in North Carolina, we'll buy up your 6 car washes. I know a guy who's got 5 in Illinois. There's this guy over here in Arizona who has 6. So instead of buying singles, now we're buying these regional chains, and we become the roller upper, for lack of a better word. So that the flywheel gets even more attractive. So the numbers get really, really attractive. I mean, I've already made back my investment plus some, and I literally wrote those checks last April. So everything now is gravy. We're going to have to put some more money in to buy these other car washes, but we figured out after about the 4th or 5th car wash, the acquisitions will be funded by the cash flow of the existing washes.
Well, I think one of the things that as I get older and you learn more about investing and just raising money and all that stuff like that, I just don't like being told what to do. And more importantly, like we move at a speed that a lot of people can't handle. And a lot of people can't stomach it, whether or not they're bringing all the money or not. And we actually had a situation that I'll explain in months to come once it all clears up, but where we had to switch the strategy for this company mid-raise because some shit came up. And to be honest with you, when I look at it, when it's all said and done, 2 things happen. One, we completely own the business with no outside thing. Second is it probably saved me about $3 million.
Right.
So it's like, wow, that was scary in the moment. But if I stand back and look at it from an outside point of view, like, man, now once you create that flywheel that you're talking about on acquisition 3, 4, and 5, that business is with lines of credit is funding its own thing.
Yes.
That's going to look real attractive when that thing is making cash flow 15 years from now, and you're not having 30 or 40 grand or 40% taken out of the business. That's why I respect these searchers a lot, but they're doing a lot of work, and those people that are giving that money are taking a large portion of that stuff,
Yeah, I do think there's a problem with SMB Twit in that I see over and over again people are encouraging people to buy bigger businesses. And I think we've got to realize the vast majority of that community, first of all, they're completely silent, right? They don't reply to my tweets. They don't reply to your tweets. They consume them and they're engaging with them.
Yeah.
But if they hit a like, that's a very rare occurrence for them.
Yeah.
Right. So, but most of them are W-2 employees who are making a nice income, but dream of owning their own business. And the idea that they have been an employee, some of them are 10, 20, 30 years into their careers, and they should just go out and buy a $6-7 million operation.
Wow.
I just don't agree with that at all. I think you've got to prove yourself. I think you've got to and this is why I love car washes too.
These look, have them come spend 2 days with me.
Yes.
My guys that have been in HVAC and plumbing for 30 years will eat you the fuck alive.
Absolutely.
They might have not gone to college, but they know people, baby, and they smell BS coming from 10 miles away.
They will take your customers, they will take your equipment, they will take everything they can, and they'll be out the door. I know people that it's happened to them. They're in half their employee base just out the door in 2-week period, and the business got cut in half, and they trashed their online ratings.
Dude, I just had a guy call me today. This is a true story, and I get it all the time, and I get it. It's not a big deal. I had a guy that went with another company. We do construction too, and he went with another company, cheaper. I told him, I said, if that's what you feel like's best for your family, then do it. Yeah. He goes, well, you're way more expensive. I said, yeah, but you're not going to have to hunt me down. We're going to be there. I got the guys. He just called me today crying.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious. He's crying because he got scammed at
Yeah.
$12,000 and now he needs me to go fix it. And I say, hey man, I might not be the cheapest, but you're never going to have to hunt me down and we're going to
Yeah.
get it done. You know?
Right. Right.
It's just the truth, man.
Yeah. So I do think I don't know what your listeners are into, but I do think there's an opportunity to, especially with the kind of things we're talking about with this real estate stuff, to get a side gig going. And I think this sounds very self-serving, and it is, I'm happy to admit, but car washes and businesses like those are the perfect side gig, because you can do it in about 5 or 10 hours a week. You completely nuke your taxable income, right?
Wow.
You're going to get all your money back from your taxes. And you're building something. You're building this thing on the side, and you don't have to let go of your W-2.
The one in town has drive-through, 3 things, 6 vacuums, laundromat, RV storage behind it.
Oh, that's the dream, baby. That's the dream. Oh,
but what's interesting, right? To hitch on your point about big businesses, I am friends with a guy who sold his company for a ton of money to Apex, but his partner has bought and sold 150 HVAC companies for Standard Air. Like, this dude is legit.
Yeah.
And he said,
Yeah.
Austin, the number one thing that searchers or people in general don't get is, yeah, it's very attractive to buy a business doing 7, 15, 20 million. And that's great. But understand that the growth of that business is going to be nominal because it's already been built.
Yeah.
He goes, if it was me, I would buy a business that's in the 2 to 3 to 4 million. Then you grow it to 5 to 7 to 8, and now you've created a 10x multiplier instead of getting small increment changes.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And that's essentially what my first business was. I growing from 150K in top line, which is a joke now. You wouldn't even buy a business that had that little top line right now. But back in 2003, it was significant. But growing that business to $1 million revenue was relatively easy. All we did was answer the damn phone. That's all we did. And we showed up when we said we were going to show up. That's all we had to do.
It's a lot easier to lose 40 pounds than to lose the last 2 pounds.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly how it is. So yeah, I think for a lot of your listeners and the Twitter tribe, like, start with something where you can keep your W-2, because that's what's holding them back anyway, is quitting that W-2, right? It's so terrifying. You're going to lose your insurance. You're going to lose your 401k, blah, 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 all this stuff.
You're not going to get financed.
That's the thing. When we bought the car wash, I have a nice net worth, but they looked at my income from my other businesses. They loved the fact that I had that income coming in, that was stable. So I do think people should look at that. You can do side gigs. You can do the nights and weekends thing to build up. And then if you grow it, if you're a talented operator and you follow my blueprint, then you can quit eventually.
Yeah. Plug again, guys. He's really good.
Plug again. Taxfreecashcow.com. I'll show you it all.
You know what's interesting? As we get older in life, the thing is like, all you want, and I've read enough of your tweets and talked with you enough. All we're hoping to do, right, and all you're hoping to do, and we laugh about plugging yourself, is give somebody the other opportunity that you are afforded.
Yes.
That just, you just took your family to the Grand Canyon, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got passive income. It's not, passive income's a relative word because it doesn't even really exist, but passive is, and so, like, that's my whole thing. It's like, when I started, because I hated my W-2 and I burned everything I owned and just jumped in, lost tons of money. Yeah. But as I've got older, I caution people more and more, because I can't get finance for a canoe at this point, because I'm an entrepreneur, right? So respect that part of your career, and you might not love it, but if you're making money and it doesn't need that much of your time, then start building up. I just talked to a guy today, he's got 2 years before he can leave because they paid for his MBA. Like, that's, dude, I was like, dude, you can be a fucking millionaire in 2 years on the side. And he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you can. And I'm like, instead of just like limping along, I was like, you can really like put it all together on the side.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if people want to find out about you, they want to follow your journey, they want to
check me out on Twitter. Just put in car wash car wash guy in there. There's a couple other guys there, but you'll see my pictures there with the big
Yellow background. You can't miss it. Yeah.
You can't miss the yellow background. And then check out taxfreecashcow.com. I put together a course that lays out this whole blueprint, how to find, buy, and run your first car wash if that's your gig. Because it's very compelling. It's a great side gig for W-2s. I do consulting on the side, and the vast majority of my people who sign up for the consulting are people with W-2s, and they're looking to get out of it. They want that freedom, and so this is a great stair step to do that. So I think it's a great option for people, and you
A
can check
good
out
way
the
to
course.
always find the right place to do business is find the
Yeah.
places that you don't hear that are selling all the time. What I mean by that is one of the greatest things I ever heard was, do you notice that baseball teams don't sell a lot like NBA, like MLB teams?
Mhm.
Because a large portion of what's spent at the stadium is cash.
Yeah.
And football tickets are higher. And so you don't hear, I mean, yeah, car washes change hands, but there's a lot of guys I know that have 30, 40, 50, 60. I know one guy that just started investing in Austin that had car washes. I think he sold it for like a couple billion. Like, I mean, there is something to be said for something that's always going to be used.
Yeah. It's not going anywhere. That's why I would love it.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Guys,
Austin.
it's a pleasure. Guys,
Yeah.
if you got some value from this episode, send it to a friend, and we'll see you next time.